Ask any teacher, ask your kid's coach in any sport, or for that matter, most parents. This is the era of spoiled, coddled, overprotected children. From parents who argue when their kids will get a bad grade that it's somehow the school's or the teacher's fault, to soccer games where they don't want anyone keeping score here for fear of any hurt feelings. You can get the 12th place prize for crying out loud. But now, there is a contrary approach to parenting called free range. Yes, it's actually called that, and it's generating controversy of its own. Andrew?
And Rich, if most parents know about this thing called free range childbearing or child raising, it's probably because of the parents in Maryland who've gotten in trouble for letting their kids walk home and play in a nearby park totally unsupervised. But there is plenty of support for a more hands-off approach to parenting, and of course lots of debate.
Danielle and Alexander Mayteve of Maryland sparked a national debate on parenting.
The so-called free-range parents
investigated for letting
their crime, letting their 10 and 6-year-old children walk a mile home from a park without adult supervision. The Mayteves practice what's known as free-range parenting. They give their children what they say is space to play, discover, and roam.
They believe that this is the right way to raise their children.
At this playground in Silver Spring, Maryland, parents came out with their young kids to show support for the Mayteves.
You know, parents have the best sense of what their children are ready to do or not ready to do.
The parents don't think they're doing anything radical by letting their kids run free and play unsupervised. They say they did it when they were growing up, and that's what being a kid is all about. Russell Mack Simon organized the playground event. He thinks a big problem is that kids today are hardly ever by themselves.
They're almost always in some parentally supervised activity, whether it's school or aftercare.
Critics of the free-range movement say what these parents are advocating is flat out irresponsible.
A 10-year-old should never be in charge of a 6-year-old.
Worrying about your children is part of being a parent, but experts say the data shows it's actually a safe time to be a child.
The free rangers are right. Crime is down and serious stranger abductions are relatively rare.
But author Jennifer Senior says we're living in an age of irrational parenting.
I think we assign a much higher value to our kids right now because we're having them later and we're having fewer of them.
Parents say that ultimately they should be the ones to decide how to raise their kids, and whether that's letting them run free or keeping them close to home, it's a family matter.
When I was 10, I walked my 6-year-old brother. We walked back and forth to school every day,
uphill,
unsupervised.
both ways,
no,
in the snow.
Well, we did it unsupervised. Now, let me do some self-indictment. If my kid's going to bike ride, my wife almost has me tailing them, okay? So, first of all, what idiot calls it free range? You're only hurting your point. You sound like you're making chickens or whatever, right? But, Jeannie, where is that line?
It's such a hard line. I have such mixed feelings on this because on the one hand, I do hover. I know I do hover, and you want to let them run free. And on the other hand, we just saw the trial of the Eaton Patz's killer in New York City. And
even though you know the math is we were far more likely when we were kids
to be abducted,
than today.
And it's, as was just mentioned in Andrew's piece, it's a far less violent place. But you wonder if the way that we parent has something to do with it. I don't know, but you know, I do think I am sensitive to the fact that parents do have to make their own judgment as to what their kids are capable of doing, and it makes me very uncomfortable to see authorities step in. That does make me very uncomfortable, unless it's such an egregious situation like the parent is out, you know, gambling for 2 days and the kids are left alone.
10 and 6 is one thing, Dominic. What if it was 7 and 4, okay? And the 7-year-old's walking the 4-year-old from school. Would you be comfortable then?
10 and 6 is too young. And what was the other scenario?
10 and 6 is too young.
Okay.
Doesn't matter.
So I mean, I'm sorry. I don't want to offend people, but it almost sounds like a hippie movement to me. You have child molesters out there that are lurking in the background, just waiting for the opportunity.
Even though math and facts say much less than when we were kids.
Right. Okay. Well,
my wife's with you. She's just like, you crazy? Because you know that. Why would you now? Obviously, I don't get the final say. So
your wife is a very smart woman.
Yeah,
well, first of all, I'm the non-parent at the table, so let me get that disclaimer out.
Go ahead.
I tend to think that there is too much overprotection of kids. Yes, there are dangers, and there are dangerous people, but at some point the kids are going to have to learn how to avoid those people anyway, and how to fend for themselves if they're going to be productive adults. By the way, the thing I don't know about this case in Maryland, did the 10-year-old have a cell phone at least, so that if he saw trouble, he could call for help? I've not seen any reporting about that, so I honestly don't know.
Let me ask you, how old were you when you were allowed to go on your subway by yourself?
Well, remember, I grew up in the hood, so it was a little different. I wasn't allowed to go anywhere by myself. Going to Subway by myself, maybe 15, 16.
I was like 32.
But my point is, I ended up taking the train. You know, other kids were on the train and stuff. No parents. You could do it at 10, 11 years old.
10?
Yeah, now it's like
Richard,
you do that, the cops will cuff and stuff you.
But Richard, not the D train in New York City.
No,
from the Bronx to Brooklyn. Okay.
I'm
I'm talking about the D train. I'm talking about the 4 train. I'm talking about good luck.
I wasn't running with the Crips.
That free range, those parents are in Silver Spring, Maryland. I was in Rockville, Maryland when I was 5, 6, 7. We walked a mile both to school but also to a park unsupervised and would walk back. We were in a neighborhood. So, like, I'm familiar with that neighborhood. Yes, it was different 30 years ago, but it feels a little overprotective.
I just remember
it really does.
my parents' weekends compared to my weekends. Basically, we're running around with 3 kids going to all different games and everything else, just like all the other parents are doing. Meanwhile, the parents weren't doing that for us. It was like, have fun, whatever, we'll see you tonight. You know? I wonder who was the smart
by
one.
sundown.
Yeah. Hey, we talked about graduations a little bit earlier, and our picture of the day is a very special graduation. Maria Centinella is graduating from Lemoyne Nursing College in Central New York. In fact, she graduated this past Saturday. Her mother, Michelle, well, she won't be in the crowd. That's because she'll be on the stage with her daughter receiving the diploma for her bachelor's degree here. I'm sorry, that's coming up this Saturday. Congratulations to mother and daughter. Mother looks pretty young there. All right, coming up next, we're going to have some Hudson Valley headlines. Stay with us.